Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Regulation and Funding of Household Sewage Treatment Systems in Ohio. My name is Miranda Garitano with the Division of Environmental and Financial Assistance here at Ohio EPA, and I will be moderating this afternoon's presentation with Ryan Lake and Tony Nosko of Ohio EPA and Audrey Blakeman of the Ohio Department of Health. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our first presenter, Tony.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tony Nosko. I work at the Ohio EPA Central Office in Division of Surface Water. I'm a supervisor, and one of my job duties is the managing of the MPDS general permit for household sewage treatment systems that discharge to waters of the state. I also do the small flow program and House Bill 110, which we will be covering as well during my presentation. We're going to start off first with taking a quick poll. I'll read the question, then we'll get your guys' answers. Are household sewage treatment systems being used by residents in your community? 1 for yes, 2 for no, and 3 for I don't know. So it looks like 90 or 89% said yes, 6% no, 5% I don't know. So kind of figured with the subject of this webinar with the amount of yeses, but hopefully we can get to 100% by the end of this. Okay. So this kind of breaks down the roles of each of our divisions and agencies. From Ohio EPA regulatory role, that would be the Division of Surface Water, which I work in, the MPDS permit for household sewage treatment systems. For design, installation, design rules, that would be with the Ohio Department of Health and your local health department's rules. And then finally, funding and all that stuff is with the Ohio EPA Division of Division of Environmental and Financial Assistance, with John Bernstein as the, I believe, the chief now. So my role, and things we'll cover today that I handle, is the household sewage treatment discharge permit. What is it? Purpose, overview, eligibility application process, NOI, which is involved with that, and then Health Department, Ohio EPA roles. Followed by House Bill 110 we'll go through, and small flow on-site treatment systems. So a lot to cover, not a lot of time. So a household sewage treatment system that is a treatment system that receives sanitary waste from a home. On-site systems use soils to filter and disperse the water. There is no discharge. So this is actually only regulated by the health departments and the Ohio Department of Health. When the EPA gets involved, it's for off-lot or discharging systems. You might have heard the term MPDS systems is used a lot. So these are systems that discharge to your storm sewers, road ditches, creeks, rivers, ponds, lakes, any kind of body of water or tributary to a body of water. Per the Clean Water Act, it is required for any kind of wastewater treatment system that discharges to waters of the state to be permitted by an MPDS permit. This is Ohio's way of meeting that compliance and trying to simplify it and merge it with ODH's rules and the health department's regulations. Very basic treatment. Just a quick run through. As you can see, got the septic tank, collects the sludge, scum, and then it discharges to a body of water. As we progress, we get more advanced in these systems. New technologies come out, and the design and review of these designs are through the Ohio Department of Health's Technical Advisory Committee, or TAC. So why do we need this permit? It is law, as I said earlier. The Federal Clean Water Act requires discharges of wastewater to receiving waters to be permitted. It sets conditions that protect not just the environment, but public health. Those are always our main priorities, is to protect the environment and public health. And Ohio and the nation's water quality has greatly improved since these laws were enacted. I mean, for most of us, we all talk about how the Cuyahoga River caught fire. I wish it was once, but it was multiple times. But since then, the water quality in Ohio has increased immensely when these rules and regulations were enacted. Lots of progress, lots of improvement. Water quality, aquatic life has improved immensely. So the EPA's MPDS general permit for household sewage treatment systems, or HSTS, was created in 2007. All MPDS permits, not even general, individual as well, are required to be renewed every 5 years. Existing systems that were discharging to waters of state as of 2007 were grandfathered in. So when this permit started and when it was created, the idea was we didn't want to flood the agencies with the amount of work that'd be required to get everyone permitted. So as systems fail, we would slowly get them replaced and under permit. So to start the process, a survey must be completed by the local health department declaring that an on-site system is not feasible before even applying for coverage under this general permit. Two of the big things is, are sewers available and is an on-site feasible? If both those answers are neither, then discharging is usually the last resort. Some reasons is soils might not be suitable for dispersal of the wastewater. Lot might just be too small. We see that a lot. And the water table could be too high for, so there's enough soil to provide treatment. So the MPDS permit, like I said, it's a very straightforward general permit. We try and make it as simple as possible, not just for the homeowners, but also for the health departments, because they do a lot of work making sure these systems are running and operating properly and meeting the rules. The first step is to obtain local health department authorization to install a household sewage treatment system, whether it's replace, upgrade, or a new one. They must maintain and operate an operations and maintenance service contract through a registered provider of ODH. This is to make sure these systems are being properly maintained. If they're not, they fail quicker, and these systems are not cheap. And then the final is to perform annual sampling. These are diagnostic, not compliance. So we're looking to see how these systems are performing across the state. It's not a compliance like your wastewater treatment plants where we want these numbers under a limit, and we expect that. We want to see what the issues are and how we can fix them and improve upon them. Not all systems can qualify for the general permit. In the notice of intent, the application itself, we have these questions as yes and no for the health departments. There are eligibility requirements for this general permit. Any discharge from a new lot created after January 1st, 2007. This one, the general permit got renewed this past year. We actually added a little exception in here because we are now 15 years into this permit. We do have lots created after January 1st, 2007 that are on site, but are now failing or could fail. So we want to get out ahead of that instead of have this issue where these homes have failing systems and we can't get a new system in there because they don't qualify for the general permit and they can't fit an on-site. So this is our way to get out ahead of it. There are strict guardrails to make sure it's all done properly, but that is something new in the general permit. When centralized sewers are within 400 feet of the property, there's a little more nuance to it. Physical, financial, or legal barriers do exist. Physical, there's a river in between us and the sewers. Legal, the homeowner, the neighbor won't let us get an easement to go to the sewers. And then the other way is just way too far and way too expensive. And then financial prices. Sometimes I've seen costs go up to $70,000 just to connect, and it's like that's just way too much for a homeowner to pay for. So we do have those off ramps for that. And then for a new system, so any lot created before January 1st, 2007 that's never been built on is considered a new home construction. We have a map on our webpage that you can just type in the address and find these discharge points. So one of them is the quality of water that the system would be discharging to. If it's an outstanding body of water or superior high quality, a new home construction cannot discharge to it. The systems that are approved aren't designed to meet the very, very strict limits to discharge to those bodies of water without degrading them. And then any discharge from a new system must have a discharge point of 5 square drainage miles or more. Again, we're talking big creeks, big rivers, lakes, very big bodies of water. The reason for this is, again, water quality. We want to protect our smaller streams. These systems, we can only put so much technology into these systems before they become unoperable by the homeowner. So this is our way to keep our water quality and improve upon it while also not degrading it. So how does a homeowner get permit coverage? Once they go through the health department steps, the way I like to picture is I'm almost a step in the health department's process. We do have two ways to submit now, and we're going to switch to one here soon. Your traditional mail-in and submitting via email and paying online. Those instructions and forms are on the link on this PowerPoint. All information, including the general permit itself, are on that same webpage. Any new application is a $200 processing fee and renewal fee, or not renewal, but review fee. NOIs will soon be submitted on the eBusiness Center. We will have training for the health departments, video and PowerPoint for the health departments to use to learn how to use the new system. I've tested it with a couple of counties. They've thoroughly enjoyed it. It makes it a lot easier for everyone and quicker and easier to track. Roles of the Health Department and Ohio EPA. Health departments evaluate the property, decide what type of system is feasible. They approve the system design. They inspect and regulate issues with system maintenance and may assist with system sampling and maintain sampling databases. Ohio EPA rewrite and renew the general permit. So when we renew a general permit, we have to go through public comments and US EPA comments. So we're not violating the Clean Water Act. So that's where we get involved in a lot, is these permit renewals. We also issue coverage and make sure these homeowners qualify for coverage. And then we also provide technical assistance to the local health department, installers, and homeowners. We also analyze the sampling data that we receive. ODH does as well, and we kind of work together to see how these systems are performing. Like I said, before I jump into House Bill 110, the renewal was this past year. There are two other new things in the general permit. For diagnostic sampling, we removed CBOD. We believe the numbers of ammonia directly correlate with CBOD, and we did get a lot of feedback from homeowners, health departments, service providers, the difficulties of getting CBOD sampled and to the lab. There's a very small time window, so we removed that. It's still in the design standards of the system when they're getting approved by the TAC, but they are not required in the annual sampling. And then we did eliminate the NOI requirements for permit renewal. After talking to the director and the US EPA, we believed it'd be easier just to auto-renew every homeowner under the new general permit. We sent out letters to every homeowner, and we sent out a form where they can update the information saying, hey, we are new homeowners, or this happened, or we're not the homeowners anymore, so we can get our database up to date as well. The last time we did this in 2017, we sent out slips to be signed and sent back. I was still receiving those 5 years later. Homeowners were calling me saying, oh, I found this in a drawer in my desk. What do I need to do with this? So we just thought, let's make it easier on the homeowners. They already have an operating permit with the health departments. Let's try and mesh with the health departments. So House Bill 110 is our semi-public disposal inspection program. This gives the health departments the ability to take over the inspection side of things for our what we consider semi-public disposal systems. They do our inspections for us, and sometimes enforcement. We work together on that. Semi-public means a disposal system that treats sanitary sewage discharged from publicly or privately owned buildings or places of assemblage, entertainment, recreation, and is no more than 25,000 gallons per day. We do have a few new counties that are signing up for this, and we have quite a few that already do this. The nice thing about this program is we do have training on it. When I took my Inspector Academy training, there was a few health department sanitarians involved too, which was great to see. The local health departments may charge fees for the inspection to help offset the cost of the program. This helps the EPA get their eyes on all these systems that we have throughout the state. and it's an immense help for both us and a lot of health departments do like the program. The other one we have is the Small Flow On-Site Sewage Treatment System program, or we just call it Small Flow for short. This gives the health department the ability to request authority over small flow on-site sewage treatment systems. Keyword is on-site. So this is only for on-site systems that treat less than 1,000 gallons per day and aren't industrial waste. So your campgrounds, maybe dwellings that are bigger than 3 to 5 families or apartment complexes. A lot of those can fall under, but it's under 1,000 gallons per day. In those situations, the health department assumes authority and regulation over, so they follow ODH and the health department's rules compared to the EPA's. Where House Bill 110, they're still getting permitted by the EPA, but the health department's doing the inspection for us. So that's where the difference is. House Bill 110 also includes discharging systems. So that's another main difference. But yeah, for summary, on-site systems, HSTS is regulated by the health department. Ohio EPA does not regulate. Small commercial will regulate if the health department has that authority. Ohio EPA regulates all others. Large commercial health departments do not regulate. Ohio EPA does regulate. So that small commercial is kind of a gray area where we work together to help each other out. Discharging systems, health departments regulate design and maintenance, and EPA regulates the discharge permit. Small commercial inspects the House Bill 110 program authority. So if they have that program, they do the inspections for the EPA. We regulate the permits. And then finally, for all others, it's under Ohio EPA regulations and designs. And that is all I have.
Next, we're going to turn it over to Audrey with the Ohio Department of Health, and she's going to kick it off with another poll.
Thanks, everybody, and thanks, Tony. So I'm Audrey Blakeman. I'm with the Ohio Department of Health. I'm in the Private Water Systems and Sewage Treatment Systems program. And as Tony presented just a few minutes ago, we do work really closely with the Ohio EPA on systems that discharge throughout the state. But I'm going to discuss a little bit about the systems that are regulated by the health departments and the Ohio Department of Health here. So again, let's start with a quick poll. All right, so this question hopefully has an easy answer for you. Did you know that there are multiple state and local agencies responsible for the regulation of household sewage treatment systems? All right, so it looks like 94% of the answers were yes, that we do know that there are multiple state and local agencies responsible for the regulation of household sewage treatment systems. Those agencies are the Ohio Department of Health, the local health departments, and the Ohio EPA. And then there was a 6% no answer. So hopefully by the end of the presentation, everybody will be able to answer yes to that one. All right, so moving into my presentation. So my part is going to talk a little bit about the permitting process on the local health department side as regulated by the Ohio Administrative Code 370129. So the Ohio Administrative Code 370129 is the statewide set of rules for the sewage treatment systems in Ohio. This was implemented on January 1st, 2015. Prior to that date, Ohio was kind of a home rule state, and each local health department had the authority to implement rules in different ways. But after the legislature passed the statute, which the most recent effective date was 2010, then we developed a statewide set of rules to provide that consistency across the state and how the sewage treatment systems were being installed, managed, designed, maintained. So this is, again, the Ohio Administrative Code 370129. So that's the sewage treatment systems rules. All right, so the health department starts with the site and system design approval. So there's a multi-step process that we have to go through in order to get a septic system from the inception, the thought that we need one, into the ground functioning and operating for those property owners that need those. So the very first step in that process is a soil evaluation. The soil evaluation is the most important step. We tell people that all the time. This is the foundation of the sewage treatment system. We will have a soil evaluator or a soil scientist go out and examine the soils, and they look at the structure, the texture, the consistency, the grade, we're looking to find out what size the particles are, looking for depletions and concentrations and things that would identify that there was a perch seasonal water table or there was some sort of restriction, because all of that information you would pull from a soil evaluation is really going to drive how that system is sized, what the length of the system is going to have to be, and ensure that proper treatment and dispersal is occurring once it's installed. So the soil evaluation is the fundamental, most important part of the sewage treatment system process here. So after we have a soil evaluation, though, and we know what the characteristics of that soil is, then we would move into having the system designed. So the system design has to comply with the requirements in the Ohio Administrative Code 370129, Chapter 10. That's the section that explains what the components need to be, what need to be included on the design. So you're going to have to submit a list of the items that are be involved in the sewage treatment system. You would need to include a plan view of the design. That way we're indicating that everything that we've put together is going to meet the soil absorption requirements that we pulled from the soil evaluation in the earlier step. But then what do we do whenever we have the soil evaluation and the design in hand? This is the part where the health department gets involved, because the homeowner is going to show up at the front door with a site review request. They're going to fill out an application to get a site review. And the health department at this point will evaluate the soil evaluation and the design. They'll do a site visit and ensure that everything can meet those requirements in the administrative code. So the soil evaluation and the design, once we've determined that they're complete, that they're accurate, that they're compliant, at that point, the local health department can issue an approval for that site review. So there's some asterisks here. This is that, like Tony said, a lot that cannot support a soil-based system must meet the criteria and be granted approval from the Ohio EPA under the NPDES General Permit for Household Sewage Treatment Systems. If you can not get a soil evaluation to show that you can site a system on site and you meet all of those requirements, then you will submit that NOI, that notice of intent, to the Ohio EPA to get that approval. But then obviously the site approval or the site review has to take place before we can move into the EPA step there. So once the local health department reviews the site approval application and all criteria are met, we get a site review approval. That could be for an on-lot or an off-lot system. Either way, you're going to need the site review approval, and that approval is valid for 5 years. So somebody may purchase a property and then they want to wait a couple years to build their house. So as long as they do it in that 5-year time frame, and also as long as nothing on the site changes, so they didn't come in and excavate the whole thing, or they didn't come in and build a barn or a structure over the treatment area that was designed, then that system will be valid and approved until that time. So after that 5-year permit, they would have, or that 5-year expiration date, they would have to reapply for a new site evaluation. But assuming they get that all done in 5 years, then this is the step where they would move into obtaining a permit to install. All right, so the permit to perform work. So the next step, after we've gotten the site review approval, is that we apply for a permit from the local health department to install the specific system type in the specific location of that specific lot as identified in the site approval. So we use the word specific 3 times in this sentence on purpose. The soil evaluation should have identified delineated representative areas for the test hole or the pit that they used. And then the design should have designed the system within that delineated representative area. So each site review approval is for a very specific location on the property. You can't have the homeowner or the property owner change their mind and decide that they want to build a bigger house, or they may want to put a swimming pool where the system should have been, so we'll just move it somewhere else. Any of those activities would trigger the need to go back to square one and start over with the process. But assuming that the specific location has been protected, and it's on the specific lot that we requested it for, not the neighboring one or not some other parcel we picked up adjacent to it, and everything is exactly as it was on the design that was approved, then they can apply for the permit to install the specific septic system. So after they've obtained that permit, after the health department has approved the site review and issued that installation permit or alteration permit or replacement permit, depending on what kind of system that we're installing here, the local health department will go out and inspect before they can issue final approval. So we go out and we make sure that everything that's in the ground matches exactly what was submitted on the design. And then there shouldn't be any deviation from that. So the local health department goes out and they do that final inspection. And at that time, they're able to issue final approval as long as there were no issues. All right, so after the permit work is approved, so upon final approval of the permitted work, the system has to be enrolled in the local operation and maintenance tracking program. The operation and maintenance tracking program, which we usually just shorten to O&M when we talk to people about this program, is where we're going to ensure that the systems they have an operation permit, they have certain criteria that they need to meet. We're making sure that the health departments are tracking and ensuring ultimately that the systems continue to function, because we want to ensure that not only do our systems function, but they function optimally so that they are sustainable, they last a long time. That way it kind of helps the homeowners protect their investment, because everybody knows it's not really cheap to put in a septic system, and we want to ensure that we can get as much life out of those as we can. And the best way to do that is to make sure that they are maintained and operated appropriately. So upon final approval, that's when the operation permit is issued and they're enrolled in that tracking program. So the operation permits are issued by the local health department. Every local health department is going to have a different operation and maintenance tracking program. It can be for 1 year to 10 years in length. So everybody's a little bit different on what the lengths of their permits are, but there's a cap of 10 years on that. And then finally, after we've issued final approval for the system, after we're enrolled in operation and maintenance, there is a requirement in the administrative code for a 12-month inspection. So after it receives final approval, after that's taken place, so within 12 months, sometime within 12 months, the local health department needs to re-inspect the system to ensure that it's functioning properly. So this is the time where we make sure that nothing has gone sideways. We have an opportunity to do homeowner education if we find that there are issues, and we're just really double verifying that the system is not creating any public health nuisances and that the system's functioning correctly. All right, so the operation and maintenance tracking program, this is a topic that we talk with the local health departments pretty frequently about, because everybody's in different stages of implementing this requirement. Everybody's taking different approaches, and there's a lot of questions that come up about this. So we included this slide here about the operation and maintenance tracking program. So what it is that the statute, so the ORC 3718 and rule, so the OAC 370129, both require that each local health department develop an operation and maintenance tracking program for their local jurisdiction. So starting on January 1st, 2015, at the time that this set of rules was implemented, at that time, each system that was permitted should be enrolled in operation and maintenance tracking. So I know some of the health departments are a little behind on this, but it seems like we're starting to catch up. Everybody's on board with this requirement that we need to have all of these systems enrolled, and they need to have appropriate terms and conditions. They need to have appropriate expiration dates, and we're just ensuring that we're making sure that these systems are functioning as they're designed to and serving the homeowners for as long as we can, as long as we can make them functional. So in addition to the newly permitted systems, however, the local health departments have been tasked with implementing a local plan to enroll the existing systems into the program. So several of the local health departments may have already had an operation and maintenance program, tracking program in place prior to 2015. Some of those were aerator programs. Some of those included all of the systems. Some places had no operation and maintenance tracking whatsoever. So it's kind of really all over the board for this piece of the problem. The goal is to, within 10 years of the implementation of the 2015 rules, to really have made some progress on capturing those systems. And each health department's taking it, in a different way. Some health departments have broken their counties down into individual townships, going township by township and inventorying those systems. Some counties have broken their county into risk areas based on recreational waters or different criteria like that, and capturing them place by place. Some counties are capturing them through real estate transfer programs. Others are going road by road. It really is a local process, whatever works best for the local jurisdiction. But the important part is that they're capturing all of the systems into some kind of operation and maintenance tracking program, and making sure that we have systems in the ground that function, and that the homeowners and the property owners are properly maintaining those. So the requirements for the operation and maintenance tracking program are pretty minimal at the state level, because we wanted to make sure that the local health departments had a lot of flexibility to ensure that the systems were, taken care of appropriately, and that each local health department, based on their staffing levels and resources, were able to manage the program. So the requirements are going to be that, the permit has to be less than 10 years, or up to 10 years. So between 1 year and 10 year. Everybody has a different take on that. Some, with the traditional gravity-fed septic tank to leach field systems, put a 10-year renewal on that, with terms and conditions that, hey, you need to pump the tank out 2 or 3 times and put in or submit, the pumping reports, have it inspected. But more complex systems that have more mechanical pieces and parts, typically we see a shorter permit time. So, you may have a 5-year or a 2-year, depending on what the system would be. So that requirement is that you can have a permit extend up to 10 years. Otherwise, for more advanced systems that are using the TAC, the quote unquote TAC approved, or TAC recommends approval for those alternative treatment systems that Tony talked about a little while ago, those are required to maintain service contracts for the life of the system, as a condition of their approval. And if it's an NPDES system, they would additionally have to maintain that coverage under the general household HSTS permit. And that also comes along with a annual sample requirement. So those are the generic, very general requirements that are at the state level. But it does give you the freedom as the local health departments to implement your own specific terms and conditions for those permits. And then we look to make sure that the terms and conditions are appropriate, that we're requiring annual sampling, we're requiring the service contract where necessary. And we just like to see that the homeowner education is occurring, so that the people are taking care of their systems, so that to improve the longevity of those systems as they're in the ground. All right, and I think that may be what I had there. So thanks again, everybody.
Next, I think we're going to turn it over to Ryan.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Ryan Lake. I am the engineering supervisor for the Division of Environmental Financial Assistance, and we will start my part of the presentation off with a quick poll. If I can get this working, there we go. Okay, the poll question is: were you aware that there's a funding available for low-income homeowners to repair and replace failing home sewage treatment systems? Pretty quick poll here for a yes, 1 or 2 no. All right, based off the results, we have an 83% yes rate, and based off the attendance, the attendees list, I would hope some of you have heard of us before, but those who have not, I will give you a quick rundown of our how we fit in with the home sewage treatment system, and how we can provide funding for low to income households. All right. So every 4 years, the Ohio Department of Health does a survey of the state of Ohio and the home sewage treatment systems within the state. And the latest survey that they did came out that there's about a million home sewage treatment systems in the state of Ohio. For a state of 11 million people, that is one of these systems for every 11 people. Based off of that survey, is estimated that about 31% of those systems are in some state of disrepair, either failing or need some repairs. That's a rather large number and increased significantly from the previous survey that was done. These systems are mainly in rural areas and in communities that lack access to centralized collection systems that would provide treatment at a wastewater treatment plant. While most of these are in rural areas, however, there are plenty of failing systems within larger communities. Here in Columbus, Ohio, for example, we have several hundred home sewage treatment systems that would still be considered failing, even though that they are within the city limits, and you would think that they would be connected to the centralized treatment system. Frequently, these systems are owned and operated by lower income households and households that are on fixed incomes. That same survey done by the Ohio Department of Health also put the average replacement of a home sewage treatment system in the state of Ohio at around $14,000. As Tony was talking about earlier, this is actually kind of a rather older map. It's about 10 years old, but this is a map of showing where all of those HSTS general permits are located. As you can see, a great majority of that is located in Northeast Ohio, which is also where about 40% of the population of the state is. So that would make sense. A great deal of this is in the Cuyahoga Valley and the Mahoning Valley. But you do see some of these over there in the Maumee Rivershed in the western Lake Erie Basin. You do see some of these down in Hamilton County, which you would think would have adequate sewer systems, but because of the density of houses, some of these are outside of collection system range. And you do see some of these down in Southeast Ohio and in Franklin County. The Ohio EPA Division of Environmental Financial Assistance administers the State Revolving Loan Fund for drinking water and for clean water. Every state has these programs, and every year we get a federal EPA capitalization grant. That allows us to issue loans for municipal projects with interest rates lower than market value. Payments with that interest rate plus the cap grant every year has allowed our program to grow to a pretty significant size. Over the last calendar year, and I looked this up this morning, we have issued in the Water Pollution Control Loan Fund $827 million worth of loans. Our cap grant for this year was only $89 million from the federal government. So that should give you a pretty good idea on how our program has continued to grow and how healthy it is comparative to the cap grant that we get from the US EPA. Starting in 2009, with the passage of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, the state revolving funds, which in this case is the WPCLF, were allowed to give out principal forgiveness loans. This is where, after the loan has been encumbered and the work is completed, we forgive the principal amount of the loan, and the community gets to get that infrastructure without having to pay us back. Currently, the federal government allows us to use 40% of our cap grant to be given out as principal forgiveness. And because of the overall health of our program, we have been fortunate enough to be able to give out that full amount of principal forgiveness for quite a while now. This slide kind of shows the breakdown of principal forgiveness for the program year 2022. And as you can see, a majority of the money does go towards municipal projects. either for wastewater capitalization improvement projects or for projects that can promote regionalization. The regionalization projects are a good example of how we leverage our money to decrease failing home sewage treatment systems, since many of these projects involve connections of unserved communities into neighboring centralized collection and treatment systems. But you also see that there's a box in there for a little over $11 million. That is allocated towards local health departments to fix and replace these failing home sewage treatment systems. Along with fixing and replacing these, if a failing home sewage treatment system is close enough to a centralized collection system, we will also pay for connections into the collection systems. As previously mentioned, the program for lower income households, we base this off of the idea of lower income off of the 2021 U.S. Department of Health and Human Services poverty guidelines. If a household falls under the poverty line, we will pay 100% of the repair, replace, or connection cost. If a household falls within 1 to 2 times the poverty line, we will pay for 85% of that cost. And if a household is within 2 to 3 times the poverty guideline, we will pay for up to 50% of the replace or repair cost. All right, this map is actually a little old, so some of the dollar amounts are not going to be correct, but I still like how it demonstrates how we've leveraged our money for the program to fix and repair these failing treatment systems. Since 2009, we have made close to $90 million available. We've had 82 out of 88 of the county health departments participate in our program. Between 2009 and 2015, we mainly concentrated on the Western Lake Erie Basin. And as you can see here, there's a decent amount of money in that Sandusky area and the Maumee area. However, you can also see that the Cuyahoga Valley and the Mahoning Valley, the Scioto Valley and Hamilton County have utilized our funds pretty sufficiently. At this point, I believe there are a few counties. Again, this map is a little outdated. The information is a little outdated. There are a few counties within our state who are actually over the $2 million over the last 12 years utilized. So this program did start in 2009, but like I said, it was much smaller and mostly confined in the Western Lake Erie discharge basin. In 2016, the Division of Environmental Financial Assistance decided to put a larger emphasis on home sewage treatment throughout the state and opened it up to all local health departments to apply. That first year, we had 57 health departments take our money and use it, and we had I feel like a pretty good feedback on that. So we have continued to leverage part of our principal forgiveness every year, and at this point we seem to have leveled off in the somewhere in the low to mid 70s of local health departments who are participating in our program. There are over 100 local health departments, local health districts in the state. However, it seems that a majority of the people who want to participate are at the county level. Since 2016, $71 million has been made available, with close to $50 million being spent. The local health departments in our program have 2 years to spend the money. So the 2021 money needs to be spent by the end of the 2022 year. 2022 isn't on this chart yet, but a few local health departments are already spending into that money. Since this is a loan to the local health departments to use, We don't have any interaction with the homeowners. The local health departments are responsible for administrating the program and all the contracts with installers and dealing with the homeowners. Again, we are basically at the $50 million mark over the last 6 years. It's a pretty outstanding amount of money being spent. When I say it's a pretty outstanding amount of money being spent, I kind of want to break down where that $50 million actually is being spent. We've had basically 3,600 soil evaluations and or designs that have been paid for using our funds. 700 or so repairs have been undertaken. We've had 350 failing systems connected into sewers, and we've had 3,426 straight replacements of failing HSTSs. I do want to point out that the repair, replace, and connections comes in at approximately $10,000 per household that we have helped, which comes in about 76% of the average state repair that I mentioned earlier, which basically falls right in line with majority of the people we help being in that category of 2 to 3 times or 1 to 2 times the poverty rate. So, again, we have leveraged our funds pretty well to help some of the lower income households in our state. Finally, I just want to point out that in addition to the WPCLF, we do also have the H2 Ohio program. This program is Governor DeWine's Water Quality Initiative that was started in 2019, with funds being made available to the Ohio EPA, the Department of Agriculture, and the Department of Natural Resources. The Ohio EPA has used some of its H2 Ohio funds to include lead service line replacements, water and wastewater system failing infrastructure to help with that, and of course HSTS repair and replacements. We are currently in round 3 of H2 Ohio, and 5 counties have been selected to receive additional $700,000 worth of funding. So that's a pretty big deal. Like I said, this is round 3. All 3 rounds combined, we've had 23 counties total receiving an additional $3.4 million in H2 Ohio money. That has led to 150 additional repair and replace systems, over 100 more soil and design, soil evaluations and design, and 18 sewer connections to existing collection systems. These are the 2 main programs that DEFA uses that we directly handle that affects HSTS in the state. These funds have had, like I said, a great direct and immediate impact on both the citizens that we have helped and the water quality and human health in smaller rural communities. It is a excellent program, and if anybody has any interest in and has not utilized this yet, I would please encourage them to contact us so we can talk them through our program. With that, that is the end of my presentation.
All right, thank you. We're going to begin answering some questions submitted during today's presentation. As a reminder, you can still submit questions through the questions pane. We'll do our best to answer as many questions as possible, but if we have not answered your question during the session, we will reach out to you via email following today's webinar. All right, Audrey, I think I'll direct this first question to you. What are the operation and maintenance program requirements for the local health departments?
Hey, thanks. The operation and maintenance requirements for the local health departments, I covered those a little while ago in the presentation, but they're pretty minimal from the state level. We require those permits to be less than 10 years. If it's an advanced treatment system that's approved by the director through the TAC review process, they're required to have a service contract. If it's an NPDES covered discharge, At that point, it would need to also have coverage under the HSTS general permit and maintain that coverage. And they would be required to have a annual sample for those systems. But in general, the operation and maintenance program requirements are that all the systems post 2015 should have already been enrolled at the time of final inspection. And we should be working toward capturing all of the systems that have existed prior to 2015 and ensure that those systems are functioning and that they are covered under an operation permit with appropriate terms and conditions to ensure that they continue to function going forward.
Great, thank you. Tony, could you go over the definition of a new home construction one more time?
So a new home construction is a lot that's created before January 1st, 2007 and has never been built on. If the house has been torn down and they're putting in a new one, that's still considered replacement. It's for lots that have never been built on.
All right, thank you. I think this one's a good one for you as well. What is the difference between small flow on-site sewage treatment systems and House Bill 110?
So small flow is when the local health department assumes authority over on-site systems that are commercial but less than 1,000 gallons per day. They assume responsibility of the design, installation, all that. House Bill 110 is where the health department does the inspections, but the Ohio EPA still does the permitting for semi-public disposal systems, including on-site and discharging systems up to 25,000 gallons per day.
Thank you. Audrey, I have another question for you. When is a permit required from the local health department versus the Ohio EPA?
All right, that one's kind of tricky because a permit is always required from the local health department. So even if it's a replacement system and it's not going to be an on-lot system, at that time it still has to receive a permit from the local health department where the system's located. And then also, if that system is discharging because for whatever reason we couldn't get an on-lot system, at that point they would have to have dual coverage. They would have to have that additional coverage from Ohio EPA. So anytime a household system is covered by Ohio EPA, it will also always be covered by the local health department and enrolled in the local health department's operation and maintenance tracking program.
Great, thanks. And then just one last question. Who reviews the design and installation of residential systems?
And that's also going to be the local health department. So again, with the site review, they come in with the soil evaluation and the design that's based on that. And then the health department will walk through all the steps from the design review to the final installation.
Great, thank you. All right, in the interest of time, we'll wrap up the Q&A there. Thank you to Audrey, Tony, and Ryan for the great presentations, and thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. We'd also like to bring your attention to our Encouraging Environmental Excellence, or E3 Award program, which recognizes entities for exceptional achievements in environmental stewardship. Is your organization going beyond to reduce your environmental impact? Examples include lighting retrofits, reducing water energy usage, recycling efforts, and process improvements? Is your community implementing sustainable measures to reduce their environmental impact? Examples include community gardening, energy or water reduction, green roofs, and smart transportation. Some of you may have children in school. Is your K-12 student implementing student-led sustainable activities at their school? Examples include encouraging recycling, water bottle refilling stations, anti-idling policies, and composting. The E3 program has different levels of recognition for organizations, communities, and schools. Please go to our E3 webpage on the slide to learn more about this program. Before we end for the day, we want to remind you of our upcoming sessions. On June 21st, we are hosting the Stormwater Permitting Requirements for Industrial Activity under 2022 General Permit. Attend this session to learn about the new Ohio EPA Industrial Stormwater Permit, notable changes from the previous General Permit, and how to renew your coverage or obtain initial coverage. On July 19th, we have Air Pollution Risk Management Program for drinking water and wastewater treatment plant superintendents and operators. This webinar will focus on the basics of the risk management program and how it applies to both water and wastewater treatment plants. The intent of the risk management plan is to put requirements in place to help minimize and/or prevent accidental releases or spills from happening. And on August 9th, we have assistance and resources from Ohio EPA and OSHA's on-site consultation program. This session will cover the free and confidential services offered through Ohio EPA and OSHA to help businesses navigate complex environmental health and safety regulations. Please attend this session to learn more about the resources available and how they can help you. To register for upcoming webinars, please go to our agency event calendar at the link on the slide. The events calendar is also linked on our agency homepage at epa.ohio.gov. To receive notifications of upcoming webinars, please go to our Ohio EPA Customer Support Center and create an account. Within your account settings, you can select Subscribe to Updates and then select the subscription option named All Trainings, Webinars, and Conferences. This will send you email updates and reminders about upcoming webinars. Please go to our Division of Environmental and Financial Assistance training page at the link on your screen to view recordings of past sessions. You can also view recordings of past webinars you may have missed on our agency YouTube channel. Access our YouTube channel by clicking on the YouTube icon at the bottom of any Ohio EPA webpage. We will be posting the recording of today's webinar on our YouTube channel along with a link to a PDF of the slides used for today's presentation. And with that, we'll end today's webinar. Thank you all for joining us and have a great day.